Hello there, people of the internet. I have no idea if I'm actually going to put this video up because I'm going to be doing some experimentations with some hand loads. And I want to essentially experiment with 762 by 54R just to see how much more modern I can make the cartridge and how much more capable I can make the cartridge. The 762 by 54R, it's a rimmed cartridge that was designed in 1891 for use in the Russian Mosin-Nagant rifles, and not a whole lot of development has gone on with it. The Mosin-Nagant rifles have a 1 in 10 twist, or really close to a 1 in 10 twist. It's like a 1 to 9.67 twist or something like that, but we're just going to go ahead and call it a 1 in 10 twist because it's close enough to that perspective to have that little minimal margin of error not really matter with what our practical purposes are going to be. But I actually have a bunch of these. These are Steyr M95s, and I actually got myself some 762 by 54R brass that I was going to take to convert to 8 by 50 because I'm a hand loader, and 8 by 50 brass is extraordinarily easy to make at a 762 by 54R. So I was gonna just like do that with my 54R brass, but I decided to myself, you know what would be fun? Trying to get the absolute best performance possible out of the Mosin-Nagant with a 762 by 54R. So there's a couple of things I'm going to be doing here. One thing, I'm going to be using my Finnish M91. This right here is an extraordinarily nicely made Mosin-Nagant rifle, as opposed to like the wartime produced 9130s, which had like a 4 to 6 MOA accuracy standard, and finding a really accurate one of those is not really something that you're going to find, versus the Finnish rifles, which all tend to be pretty gosh darn accurate. Now, like I said, the Mosin-Nagant has a 1 in 10 twist barrel, so that means it'll stabilize a large variety of bullets, anywhere from like 100 grain up to probably about 240 grain. Might have some trouble as you start looking at like 250 grain bullets, but somewhere around that ballpark. However, all that being said, the ideal bullet weight for the most accuracy out of your Mosin is going to be like a 174 to 180 grain bullet. That's kind of what it's not necessarily what the rifle was designed around, because early during those time periods they were actually a long round nose bullet, but a lot of designing ingenuity went into that 174 grain ball round that the Russians would eventually end up adopting, and then they would swap out to a light ball ammunition, which is a 148 grain. And there's a lot of context that goes into those things. As a matter of fact, accuracy testing for those particular projectiles might be fun. But ideally, we see the best accuracy with these rifles with that 174 to 180 grain bullet. So I think that is probably what is going to be my best bet. However, I do have two things that I want to try. So the 1891 long rifle, this right here, has the longest barrel, so it's going to give us the best velocity. I'm going to use quite the slow burning rifle powder with our heavy bullet, and then probably a medium rate burning powder with a much lighter bullet to try and get the best effect possible. With that slow burning rifle powder, if I were to run that 762 by 54R in, say, my Russian Mosin-Nagant M44 with that much shorter barrel, we would see significantly worse results. However, with that long barrel, to where we get all the benefits that you would normally get from a slow burning powder as opposed to a faster burning powder, I think it's really going to serve us well in the accuracy department. So let me show you guys the bullets that I am going to be using. I have, first things first, I'm going to say right now, the Russian, the AK-47, it's a 7.62 by 39 round, and it also has that same 1 in 10 twist barrel, or 1 in 9 point whatever twist barrel, and it normally uses a 123 grain bullet. And I have some Hornady VMAX 123 grain bullets, and I want to see how fast I can get these moving out of my 7.62 by 54R and still have them stabilize. Oftentimes, whenever you're looking at your lighter weight bullets, depending on your twist weight, depending on your barrel length, depending on velocity, like there's a lot of things that go into it. You might have some stabilization issues as you start getting into the lower end spectrum or the higher end spectrum of what those twist rates can stabilize. And this right here was designed to come out of a barrel at 2,400 feet per second. Now, all of that being said, this right here from a Modernizing barrel, like if I were to full charge that and it stabilized, that would be fantastic. We're probably looking at more like 3,000 to 3,200 feet per second out of something like Modernizing's. However, what I am really looking at is this right here. This is a Hornady SXT. SST? Which one are you? They got so many different designations. Yeah. This right here is the SST model. And it's a 180 grain bullet, so it falls right into a ballpark of that perfect bullet grain weight for the twist rate to be able to get the best accuracy possible out of this rifle. Both of these are, in fact, made by Hornady. And Hornady is pretty gosh darn good at making their bullets. These aren't exactly factory second bullets. I'm going to go through and weigh each individual cartridge, and I'm going to fire form all of my brass to the chamber of that particular Modernizing rifle, which we will be using for our accuracy testing. And then after that, I'm going to use exact powder charges on all of the things, and all of this added together translates into getting really, really accurate ammunition. You kind of compile all of these different factors into the way that you make ammo, and normally when you get ammo and accuracies, it's not one particular thing that gives you problem. It's a bunch of little things like bullet deficiencies with the manufacturing. Maybe a jacket is ever so slightly worn on one side rather than on the other, or maybe the lead inside the center is offset ever so slightly, or there's some deviations of some kind, and then you add that onto like a powder charge that's 1 grain higher or lower from, you know, round to round in that particular batch, and then maybe the brass is ever so slightly different in contouring, so whenever it expands, you have different like slightly different times of expansion, and maybe there's ever so slightly different trims on the brass. And bottom line, there's a lot of things that go into making ammo inaccurate, and you get rid of those factors and you can make some extraordinarily accurate ammo. And that is what I plan to do with this stuff. So this is more or less the video talking about my ideas of the best way to go ahead and modernize this cartridge. I have had plenty of people tell me that they don't like the fact that my finished rifle is missing its rear iron sight. I get that. I understand that. I am looking into getting myself another one. I just haven't exactly done it yet. But what I do have is a Picatinny rail for this thing. Like, that's why it's gone, because it came with the Picatinny rail. I think I'm going to put that back on here, and I'm going to put a scope on this thing just for the accuracy testing that we're going to be doing with this particular ammunition, simply because my eyesight's not great and iron sights just really aren't that good for like really pinpoint precision accuracy. So I'm going to load up this ammo and mount that scope and get it. It's not going to be zeroed. I'm going to get it bore sighted, where you want it good enough to be able to see hits on paper whenever we actually fire it. We're not going like for pinpoint precision, hit the bullseye. We're going for group size, and then we can zero the rifle to whatever group it is that we want to zero it to, depending on what it is that we're doing. I want to see, I mean, I'm sure that these right here are going to be fine. These are the 180 grain bullets from that Modernizing with the 4064 powder. I'm going to use a pretty stout load, probably about 49 grains, maybe 50 grains. Play around with it, see if I start seeing any pressure signs or anything like that. I want to get this booking as fast as possible out of that particular rifle, while still like not losing accuracy and not like endangering the rifle or anything like that. But I want to see what kind of accuracy we get. I want to see what kind of expansion we get. I want to see what kind of velocity we get. Rough estimations with this right here, I would say with everything that we're doing, we're probably going to get about 2650 out of this round, which is absolutely cooking for a 180 bullet or a 180 grain bullet from a cartridge that's the size of the 7.62 by 54R. And then there's the little 7.62 by 39 bullet. I have no idea what to expect from this thing. I am hoping that it stabilizes, because if this stabilizes at those really, really fast feet per second, dude, it's gonna absolutely be devastating on soft targets. Also, look what I got right here. Yay, I got us a chronograph. Oh, look at that. Now we can actually see what kind of velocities we're getting out of these rifles versus me just telling you guys. So I'm going to load up the ammo. I got to fire form it first. I got to do all of the things that comes into this. So this right here is just like the part one of the video while I go through and get all of the things up and going and prepared. And I'm going to see what I can do. If these don't work out, I'm going to try a 150 grain bullet because I know for a fact 7.62x54R performs fairly decently with 150 grain. Oftentimes there's just like little things with these projectiles that for some reason make them work well or not work well, or sometimes it's based off of the rifle. Like if I were to run these through my finish Mosin and they absolutely suck, maybe I'll run them through a 9130 and get better results. I don't know. I'm just going to kind of play that one by ear. Thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate your time. Stay tuned for the results because I'm excited. I really like taking old, antiquated technology and modernizing it and doing impressive things with it. And I think the 7.62x54R, a round made in 1891, could really be well modernized. I'm betting that if I were to take some solid copper bullets, ones that require a nice long bullet in order to achieve your grain weight, that would probably give me some really, really good ballistic coefficients and some really, really good accuracy from that. But I wonder how well that would stabilize in a one and twist barrel. These are the important questions that we're asking ourselves, and this is why we're going to go do the testing. So insert outro here. I'll see you guys on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.